And now we have got ourselves a special guest for today. We have got Darrell from Between the Lines. Between the Lines is a college football show that I've ran across here on YouTube, and I'm sure it's on all other platforms. We'll let Darrell tell you about that. Darrell is an LSU fan, and the topic of today's conversation is going to be the LSU Tigers and what we can expect from the 2024 version of the Tigers. Darrell, how are you today, man? You ready to talk some LSU football?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all having me on the show. Like he said, I have a small channel, mainly evolving around SEC football, but I talk a whole lot of LSU on there too. So I'm trying to do better at talking all of SEC. But born and raised in Opelousas, Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, about an hour away from Baton Rouge, and so LSU Tiger football fan through and through. I'm not a big basketball fan or baseball fan, although they have great teams. I'm more so a football faithful. So,
Well, there's some serious athletes that come out of the state of Louisiana, and I've always kind of thought of Louisiana kind of having their own little place in the South, and there's really nothing like Louisiana. It's very unique, and the Louisiana State University fans are no different. Very unique college football fans, very unique atmosphere there in LSU. Um, and for that, we want to bring somebody in who's a little closer to the program, and that's you today, Darrell. So we just wanted to kind of go through some things and ask you some questions and just try to get a feel for this team, as there's a lot of changes that have went on since last year, and really honestly since BK took over a few years ago. So let's kind of just start with some of the basic stuff here, and we'll start on the offensive side of the ball. But I just kind of want to know, what, as an LSU fan that you are, and the LSU Nation, what is y'all's expectation for Garrett Nussmeier taking over at quarterback after a Heisman season? Because I'm going to tell you something, Darrell. I feel like every time I've watched Garrett Nussmeier, he's tore it up.
yeah,
So I'm thinking, as an LSU fan, you've got to be really excited about it. We're Georgia fans. We've seen him play against the Georgia Bulldogs in the second half of an SEC championship and absolutely light the world on fire. We still talk
yeah.
about that to this day. So, what is your expectations for Garrett Nussmeier this year?
Well, obviously, like he's coming in. He has big shoes to fill, right? Following behind Jaden Daniels and stuff. But I think more so, if you guys kind of been keeping up with Brian Kelly's been saying, what everyone's been saying is that we need more consistency from Nussmeier, right? In the limited snaps that he has gotten, right? I think he has like 217 attempts, right? And he has like 7 turnovers. So that's one of the biggest things. It's like, hey, man, get the turnovers down. He has an arm to make every throw on the field. The dude can sling it, right? But with a gunslinger, you got to think about your Josh Allens, your Brett Favre's, right? Those guys that can make every throw on the field. They have a tendency to just try to fit the ball in there, and sometimes it can be costly. But I expect big things from Nussmeier. I did a segment where I really think that he's going to be the next household name in college football next year. He's going to be taking all of the first team snaps. He's going to be working with Cortez, Hilton, and Sloan, right? And so Sloan's the new offensive coordinator. So I have major expectations for Garrett Nussmeier, but obviously he just has to get consistent, work on his patience, and just limit the turnovers.
And I think that'll come, with the experience, right? I don't think he's had a start other than the bowl game last year, if I'm not
That was his
mistaken.
first start.
So,
Yep.
and we've seen, I mean, you could look at any quarterback in the history of college football and see that they were not consistent until they had a consistent amount of games to start and play.
Yep.
I think that the schedule sets up pretty well for LSU to get him those reps until they get to the meat of their schedule, to where they're going to need him to be at his best. And I mean, look, I'm just as high as you two on him. I think he's an excellent quarterback. My question is, what does the talent look like around him? Right now, Neighbors and Thomas are both gone. Lacey's still there, but you got to have more than one guy to throw to. Mason Taylor is still there, but who else in this receiving core does Nussmeier have to go to? Are there any transfer portal players that they picked up or are looking at?
The funny thing is, I don't know if you guys have heard about the wide receiver that came from Liberty, CJ Daniels, right? His coach said that LSU paid him $300,000 to come to LSU. And so I made a post on my Instagram page and I said, with that type of money, LSU could have spread that money out and paid some. I mean, obviously, NIL and all that stuff, right? So I don't want to say LSU, the school was paying the players, but in the Bayou, it's called the Bayou Bengals Collective, right? So with that collective money, I said they could have spread that money around and got some defensive players in on the defense side of the ball because our secondary has been complete trash for the last 2 or 3 years. And his family members started attacking me, right? CJ Daniels' family members literally started attacking my my Instagram page and my YouTube channel. They started like writing comments and downvoting a lot of my videos, right? And I meant no harm. But what I was saying was that LSU has some studs already on the roster, right? We got Kyron Lacy, number 2. And we have Chris Hilton Jr., right? I think he's number 17. Okay. Now, those guys are going to be studs, right? So he has those 2 guys, right? But he also has CJ Daniels, who came from Liberty, right? Apparently, he got paid $300,000. I don't know how true that is. And then we have a guy named Zion Thomas, right? Zion Thomas came from Mississippi State. And he had limited action at Mississippi State, but I think he was a freshman All-American or something like that, right? SEC. So he's at LSU now, right? So you have those guys, and we still have Mason Teller at tight end. Mason Teller has to step it up. I was excited for him, obviously, whenever he played his freshman year. He had a big game versus Alabama when we beat Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
And, but then he kind of seemed like, I don't know if Jaden Daniels just didn't see him on the field or whether or not he just wasn't getting open or whatever. But I expect big things from him. But LSU has a lot of talent coming back in the wide receiver room. It's just like you guys said, like it just has to be consistency. Kyron Lacy has a lot of talent, but sometimes if you go back and watch some LSU games, he has a tendency to drop passes. But I think again, right, with Brian Kelly and the offensive staff saying, hey man, this is your wide receiver room. You got to be the leader. You got to step up. I think we'll see more consistency and big time plays from Kyron Lacy and Chris Hilton Jr., along with CJ Daniels and Xavier Thomas.
I love me some Kyron Lacy, man. He's about to have a huge season, and somebody that really was popping on film to me last year. But I mean, that room was just so crowded. I mean, you had Thomas and Thomas and Neighbors there. I mean, you're only going to get so many touches whenever you've got those guys around you. So kind of elaborating more on the offense with Mike Denbrock headed to Notre Dame to call plays. What is the reaction and the consensus among LSU fans with the internal promotions of Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton? We're Georgia fans. We know about Cortez and the way that he's worked his way up through SEC programs. Tell us a little bit about the transformation of the offense and what you expect to see out of the Tiger offense this year with the internal promotion of those guys.
I mean, obviously, when you lose a guy like Mike Denbrock, right, and the productivity that he brought in, I kind of expect LSU's offense maybe to start off slow. But I mean, we can't really afford to start off slow because we got USC, the first game of the season, and LSU hasn't won a season opener in 3 years. But I do expect the offense to start off slow. I fully believe we're going to beat USC, but it's a different voice, right? So, obviously with language, right, how plays are called, is going to be different. But from what I've seen and me personally, I'm happy that we promoted Sloan, and you got Cortez, right? Cortez is one of the best assistants in all of college football, right? Georgia, some of the wide receivers he's put in the pros. So I expect big things from them. I'm excited. It's consistency, right? You don't have to worry about a new offense coming in. They studied under Mike Denbrock. Obviously, Mike Denbrock went to be closer to home because he's from Indiana. But to answer your question, I don't think LSU misses a beat. I think it starts off slow, but I think you'll see that same level. Maybe not, you're not gonna have another Jaden Daniels, but I think LSU is not gonna miss a beat. I think we're in good hands with Joe Sloan and Hankton.
BK is an offensive guy, and I don't think you're not worried about coming in and bringing a whole new identity on offense. I think promoting guys from the internal was a good move in the fact that you don't want to change anything with that offense, man. That thing was popping. So
Yeah.
you want more of the same of what we've seen from this LSU team on offense over the last couple of years. And PK, I think, is very much so an offensive minded head coach. I listen to Tiger Bait sometimes on YouTube. I don't know if you're familiar with that show, but a couple of LSU insiders, and they say that BK is 95% of the time over with the offense whenever they're on the practice field.
Yeah.
Now they did say they've seen him working more with defense this spring than ever before. So that kind of tells you something, I think.
So the good thing about the changes that are going on with the offense, right? That can always be a struggle for an offense. You know, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, really a pretty all new running back room, right? Some new wide receivers, right?
Yeah.
The consistency though on the offensive line, you've got to be looking at that saying that's going to help us tremendously. You've got two potential first round talents, right? On the offensive line and really just consistency through all five positions.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what that group does. But are there any other position groups that you're looking at this spring and either circle it and saying, I've got some questions about this position group, or saying, hey, I think this position group is going to be one of the best ones, like the offensive line?
I would say running back, because LSU lost, I think, man, I forgot. I don't want to miscount, but I think they lost 8 running backs in between the transfer portal and this running out of eligibility and the pros, right?
Wow.
And then Trey Holly was a highly recruited running back out of Louisiana. He was pretty much he broke the high school rushing record for the state of Louisiana, right? But he's caught up in serious allegations of attempted murder right now. So he's not with the team. He hasn't been kicked off the team. He's just indefinitely suspended, right, until he can work out the legal stuff. I would say running back, right, because we're thin. And then I would probably say, obviously, like you said, with wide receivers, right, you got with Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors leaving, so you kind of have some pause there because those was generational talents. Both of those guys are probably going to be in the first round. But yeah, if I had to speak on offense, I would definitely say running back and kind of take a pause and look at the wide receivers, but definitely running back, because this is a thin position because of the fact that Trey Holly is away from the team, and we're going to be getting some other guys in, but they're going to be coming in as like wide-eyed true freshmen to help with that running back room. Right.
Well, with all that being said, I said before, I feel like BK's got his hand in this offense. I have faith in this offense. I think it's going to be serviceable, if not better than serviceable, no matter what. So let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball, because that's where LSU fans, I'm sure, had some serious frustrations last year with the defense.
Heartburn.
And yeah, man, I'm sure. Hey, I'm sure there's nothing more frustrating as a college football fan than a discombobulated, disorganized defense. And it was a perfect storm. That secondary, they looked like kids running around on the playground last year. And it was just a mix and match, mosh podge of guys from all over the place, transfers. And so this year, Blake Baker comes over from Missouri. He's going to be taking over as the DC. What can fans expect, and what have you heard, and what's better about this defense, in your opinion, this year versus what we've seen last year and in the past?
With Blake Baker's defense, right? His defense is a multiple type defense, right? So he likes to run a 3-4, a 4-2-5, right? He has a multiple attacking defense, right? So he likes to blitz a whole lot. He likes to attack. And so I'm excited, man, because, like I said, over the last 2 or 3 years, LSU's, the defensive secondary, but this is the defense in general, last year played at an all-time low, right? So I'm excited for Blake Baker. I'm just excited for what he was able to do 1 year at linebackers coach, and now he has control over the total defense. We brought in guys like Bo Davis, who look up the guys that he's put in the pros, right, when he was at Alabama, and then when he went to Texas, right? Quentin Williams, those type of guys, right? We brought in a guy named Peoples. I keep forgetting his name, but he's going to be coaching the D-line. He's a stud. We brought back Corey Raymond, the Godfather, the DBU from Florida, right? And if you look at the recruiting, look at some of the cornerbacks that's coming to visit LSU, right? And so it's all coming together, a perfect storm. So I'm excited, man. I'm not expecting LSU to like go from, because we was like 109th in total defense last year, right? I'm not expecting us to be like top 10, but I do think we're going to be top 25 because Blake Baker was able to bring Missouri from the bottom of the barrel to a top 25 defense. And LSU, no shade to Missouri fans at all. I'm not talking crap to Missouri fans, but LSU historically gets better recruits on the defensive side of the ball than Missouri. And so I firmly believe that this defense is going to be a top 25 defense by the end of the season next year. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited. We just got to figure out this Harold Perkins thing because some people are saying Harold Perkins wants to play inside, and some people are saying that he belongs outside. I believe he should play outside because he's small, right? He's about 6'1", 6 foot, and about 120 pounds. I think he can get to 240 in the pros, but his speed, his elusiveness, his flexibility, that's better for him on the outside because he can get around those big tackles. You know what I mean? It's all about being able to bend and get in the backfield. But playing in the inside, if you look at some of the game film from last year when he tried to play in the inside versus Florida State, man, he got manhandled in the inside, right? Because he's not a big kid. But BK saying he's going back inside, I think he should be outside. But hey, I don't get paid. I don't have a 10-year contract getting paid $10 million a year like Brian Kelly. So I'm just a fan, right? So.
I do have some concern about the defensive line. There's been a lot of talent, a lot of attrition coming out. Yeah. Who do you see stepping up as a playmaker on the interior of the defensive line?
You're right, man. So Mason Smith should have never went to the pros. He's right. The dude should have stayed, but money talks. Honestly, man, we got it's a guy named Sean Washington that came from Mississippi CC, right? That kid's huge. He's like 308 pounds, right? He's going to play right away. They moved the offensive lineman over to the defensive side of the ball, defensive tackle, because they're thin there. But we got Dominique McKinley, right, coming from high school, right? He was a long-term LSU, Texas A&M commit. We flipped him, right? He's right there from Lafayette, Louisiana. And so he's a freshman. He's going to be coming in a freshman, but the kid's already like 6'5", 280. The question is whether or not he's going to be strong enough to hold up in the middle of the defense, because LSU is going to be going to a 3-4, 3-5 defense, right? And like he's going to be required to play a 2 technique or maybe even a 3 technique, but he's going to play right away because, like you said, we're thin there. But the transfer portal opens up again, I think, in a few days, right? So I'm pretty sure LSU is going to probably try to hop back in there again and see if they can get some more bodies, maybe not starter quality players, but just some guys that they can rotate in and have some depth there. Because the season's going to be a long season. There's no more divisions, obviously. So, you got to play damn near everybody in the SEC. So, but yeah, that's definitely a position of need. Obviously, cornerback, we got some guys, right? We got some transfer guys that came in from Ohio State. You got J.K. Johnson. You got another kid. I forget his name, but they're transfers from Ohio State. And then you got some guys that's still on the roster like Stamps, Sage Ryan. You got some guys at safety. We got Jaredine Gilbert from Texas A&M. And a few other guys, but we just got to be able to put it together, honestly, man, because LSU has not been DBU in like 4 years. So we just got to be able to put it all together. But we got some guys there. Just got to see what they got there. So
absolutely. And speaking of that schedule and having no more divisions, let's get that sucker up on the screen here. And if you would, Darrell, how about going through that schedule for us? Can you see that there? And how about just we really just want to talk about the big games. What are the biggest games in your eyes? The games that are going to make or break the LSU Tigers season.
So I'm gonna start off first, man. I'm gonna say that USC game because, like I said, we haven't won a season opener in a while, right? We dropped a game to USC, and that was Coach O's last year, and then we dropped 2 games to Florida State, right? So we haven't won a season opener in 3 years. I think winning versus USC in Las Vegas is gonna be big, right? And then honestly, man, I'm going to say all of the SEC games because there's no more divisions. So, when there was divisions, you had to worry about, because LSU was in the West, you had to worry about Alabama, right? Alabama literally determined whether or not LSU was going to be able to go to the SEC championship every year. But honestly, I know the way I'm looking at it is that like you got to beat all of the SEC teams. Like you have to beat the Texas A&Ms. You definitely got to beat Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin is loading up, man. That guy's the transfer portal king. Alabama's Alabama. I know they lost Nick Saban, but they have really been ramping up the recruiting. Florida's a mixed bag. I don't think Billy Napier is going to be there at the end of the season. And Oklahoma's not a pushover. LSU owns the series. I think like 2-1. But honestly, I'm going to say the first major test is going to be Ole Miss, right? Because Ole Miss has everyone else's defensive players on their team. But honestly, man, you can't just sleep on any of the SEC teams. I know Arkansas is kind of like, they lost KJ Jefferson. Texas A&M got a new coach. Alabama, Florida, but I don't know, man. Vanderbilt, right? Vanderbilt is probably a given, but I don't know, man. It's just I think they're all important, honestly. Because you got Texas, you got Oklahoma, and there's only so many spots. I know it's a 12-man playoff, but if you start losing to a bunch of these teams, like the Ole Misses and the Oklahomas, and then like the Alabamas, you're gonna find yourself on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs. You know what I mean? So
absolutely, and I feel good the way the schedule sets up for LSU. I really do. There's no back-to-back huge games to me. I mean, Arkansas is always going to be a big game because, like you said, any SEC opponent is a big game. But we can all agree that Ole Miss, Arkansas, Texas A&M, there's one that's different than the other two. And I think it sets up perfectly for you guys. And I like that matchup with Oklahoma at the end of the year. I think that's an awesome matchup. With that over-under set at 9.5 wins, as of right now, we're not going to hold you to it, Darrell, because it is the springtime after all. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. But if you had to take make a bet on it right now, do you like the over or under that 9.5 win total for the year?
I'm going to say over, and this is why. Because history supports Brian Kelly. So if you go back and look at Brian Kelly in year 3 of his programs, right, when he went to Cincinnati, they had a tremendous third year under him. When he went to Notre Dame, they had a tremendous third year under him, right? I think they went to the national championship. They got beat by Alabama. And then this is year 3 at LSU. LSU's had 2 10-win seasons under Brian Kelly. There's no 10 wins is not it's not enough. Honestly, man, it's not enough because this is his third year. Nick Saban has retired, right? So you got one less villain to because we don't know what Kalen DeBoer is going to be. We see what Kalen DeBoer was at Washington, but we don't know what he's going to be in the SEC. Honestly, man, I'm saying over 9 wins. Like they have to get over 10. They got to get 11 plus wins and plus and to get into the playoffs and make a deep run into the playoffs because you had 2 10-win seasons under him so far. You can't have anything under 10 wins because that's going to be looked at as a massive failure. And you just got to have you got to make it to the playoffs. I would love for LSU to win a national championship. And I know the LSU fans are going to attack me, fellow fans, because we're a very toxic fan base. But we definitely got to make a playoff run. I would love for us to win a national championship. And I'm rooting for us to win a national championship. And I think Brian Kelly's going to get his first, Division I national championship at LSU. But I'm saying we got to make it to the playoffs. It's 12 teams. We got to be one of those 12 teams. Anything else is going to be looked upon to me as a failure.
I was just going to say, I think that's totally fair. Everybody knows the talent acquisition that goes on at LSU, the talent that's right there in your own backyard. At times, as a Georgia fan, I've beat my head up against the wall, wishing that there was something we could have done to get so-and-so out of Louisiana, and it never seems to work out, although we do have an ETN playing on our team now. Darrell, I want to thank you again for coming on the First and Long College Football Show. We're going to have you on again later this season. Tell everybody what your channel is one more time, and we'll try to send some viewers over that way, man.
All right, so I appreciate y'all allowing me to come on y'all platform. Anytime y'all want to come on mine, I'm more than open, right? But my channel is called Between the Numbers. So it's just at Between the Numbers on YouTube. And I try to stay consistent and drop a video every day, but sometimes it get real crazy. But I know I talk a lot about SEC football, but I like college football in general. So if if anyone is not if you're not a fan of SEC football, you still can come there and leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll go back and forth with you and talk college football. I just ask that you be respectful, because I know we're all passionate about our teams, but it's no need for people to be kind of, disrespectful in the comments, especially CJ Daniels family.
Hey, the internet's a wild, wild west these days,
Yeah,
brother.
man.
Thank you so much for coming
Yep.
on the show. We appreciate it, and best of luck to those Tigers, and we'll talk to you real soon.